Hey guys, it's Justin with survivalreviews.com. I wanted to give you kind of a first impression of the Keltec PMR-30 pistol and also my kind of after shooting review all in one video. So when you buy a Keltec PMR-30, you get a little yellow cardstock paper inside the box, and it says, for the most reliable functioning of your PMR30, Kel-Tec recommends CCI Maxi Mag 40 grains, CCI Maxi Mag Jacketed Hollow Point Plus V 30 grain, Federal Game Shock Jacketed Hollow Point 50 grain, Winchester Super X FMJ 40 grain. Kel-Tec recommends not using, and it's in bold, recommends not using Armscore 40 grain, Fiachi 40 grain, and any other non-US made ammunition. So I went to the store with this in mind because honestly I didn't own a .22 Magnum pistol or rifle before I bought this one. And I was planning on, I took the little card with me and I asked all the people there, hey, do you got this? You got this other ammo? Couldn't find any of this ammo at all. In fact, most stores didn't even have .22 Magnum ammo. I ended up finding some ammo at Cabela's, and it was $13.99 a box. Limit 2 boxes though, unfortunately. So I picked up 1 box of the CCI VMAX 22 WMR, which are 30 grain bullets. I also picked up 1 box of 30 grain VMAX by Hornady 22 Magnum bullets, and it rates on the back of the Hornady box that the muzzle velocity is 2,200 feet per second at the muzzle, and then out 100 yards it's 1,421 feet per second. So this is definitely a hot little round. I bought 2 boxes of that. That's what I was limited to. Then I sent my lovely wife into the store and she bought 2 additional boxes for me. And then I checked with a local gun store around here and I picked up a box of Hornady Critical Defense 22 WMR 22 Magnum rounds, loaded with patented FTX bullet 45 grain rounds. And if you look at the information on the back of this box, you see the muzzle velocity is 1,000 feet per second out of a handgun, and then 926 feet per second out to 100 yards. And I'm guessing the velocity is slower on the Hornady Critical Defense because they're a defensive round and they're wanting the expansion to happen and for it to not over penetrate when it hits the bad guy. So I'm going to zoom in here on these boxes and you can take a look at them. Alright, so hopefully that's good enough to read. I could only buy 1 box of the Critical Defense, and then I had a couple boxes of the other ammunition that you see here. Enough about the ammo now. So what you'll first notice when you first pick up the PMR30 pistol from Kel-Tec is that the first thought that came into my mind was, wow, that is plasticky. It just feels like, it feels almost like a toy or an airsoft pistol. It really does. You're holding it and you're thinking, that is really lightweight. The fit and finish seems to be pretty good on the gun. I did notice that a couple of the connectors here that connect the 2 sides of the firearm You can see that they're raised a little bit out of the plastic, or let me tell you the exact material that it's made out of the glass reinforced nylon frame. These two screws here, I'm not sure what type of screws they are, I'm sure somebody at Kel-Tec can tell us, are actually raised above the housing. So they're flush everywhere else on the handgun except right here, and they're raised a little bit above. Now let me check and make sure. I know that the firearm is empty, but just so I don't get bashed too much on YouTube, let me show you on the video that the weapon is safe. So you'll notice the magazine release is on the bottom of the pistol. If you push that, the magazine does indeed drop free. If you have it in a vertical position and you hit the magazine release, it will drop free. So here is one of the empty magazines. The magazine is a double stack, double feed style polymer magazine, and the magazine body and the follower is a I'm gonna have a hard time saying this, but they're impregnated. This is right from the Kel-Tec's hand or manual. They are impregnated with molybdenum disulfide dry lubricant for enhanced reliability. How about that? So it's a double feed polymer magazine, and you know, you'll notice that as you're handling this pistol. I'll show you. It's empty. Pistol safe. Empty. You'll notice that, you know, this is plastic, this is the polymer, the frame is a glass reinforced Zytel. There's so much on this firearm that is polymer. The trigger is polymer, the grip slide cover, the mag release on the bottom is polymer, the safety lever, which is ambidextrous safety lever, is polymer. And I really should say, again, you'll hear me say polymer and glass reinforced nylon, or Zytel as Kel-Tec calls it, but you know, whatever you call it, it feels plasticky. They have a lot of the CNC grooves cut into the hand grip. Now in your hand, the pistol, it feels comfortable. What it does feel like, though, is that the hand grip here, I don't have the largest of hands, even though I'm a big guy. It feels longer or wider than most other guns. When you grip it, you get a good purchase on it. It feels like it's a little thick. Now my wife, who's a smaller person, she actually really likes it. She said it fits her hand well. She likes how it feels in her hand. She can manipulate all the controls. The slide is very easy to lock back. It has last round hold open on the gun. It's got fiber optic rear sights. Fiber optic front sight. Orange on the back, green on the front. You'll notice that this is a second generation Kel-Tec PMR. The barrel has no fluting. The first generation, I believe they had a slightly different twist rate, and they had fluting on the barrel. but that was leading to some keyholing problems. This is a second generation, and all of those problems have disappeared. So you've got the magazines. Each magazine holds 30 rounds of WMR ammo. I'll pull out a bullet here. The 22 WMR round. A lot of people are not that familiar with this round. It's a pretty hot round. It travels pretty quickly. Most people are familiar with the 22 long rifle round. So let me just show you the comparison here between those two. And of course my 22 long rifle is not going to stand up for me. But in one we have a 22 long rifle. We have over here 22 long rifle, and then over here we have the 22 Magnum, or 22 WMR round. Now both are rimfire rounds, so that means, boys and girls, that as a rimfire pistol, the PMR, you should not dry fire this firearm. The reason why is because when the firing pin strikes the rim, that's where our priming compound is in a rimfire cartridge. When it strikes that rim, if there is not a cartridge in the barrel, the firing pin just strikes the end of the barrel, and this little rim on this bullet is what actually sits down inside of the barrel and is caught. It's caught by the end of the by the breech in the firearm. So you definitely should not fire the Keltec PMR-30. You should not dry fire it without a round being in the chamber. Let me go over some of the components of the pistol, and then we'll get back to some more observations about the gun. So we've got the slide cover, and the slide, this part I believe is made out of aluminum. It does have a slide stop button, which is over here on this side of the gun, right here. Ambidextrous safety. Down showing the red is on fire. Up showing black is safe. Barrel. Slide, we said. Magazine release is a button on the bottom of the firearm. Trigger guard. Okay, back to some more observations about this Keltec PMR. The trigger is what I would call a little squishy. Okay, it doesn't have a crisp, clean break that a lot of firearms have. But it is a nice trigger. It's relatively easy to squeeze. It has a lightweight trigger pull. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze the trigger now, but what I'm going to do, I've got an empty shell casing here from a 22 long rifle. So I'm going to put that down into the breech. And then I'm going to hopefully be able to demonstrate here how the trigger feels. Okay, so it's very, very light, and then a pretty clean break. But when you're shooting the gun, you know, you feel like there's a little bit of squish, and I don't know if that's because the trigger is polymer or what, but the gun is very, very reliable. Notice I have that 22 long rifle cartridge in there, so if I had fired a round, the slide would kick back, the extractor would then strip the round out, the spent casing, and you can see that it works fine on a 22 long rifle casing. Even though this isn't the right caliber, you can see where the pin hit the casing there. So it's got good clean strikes. This PMR30 is primarily going to be my wife's gun. She really loves this gun, and I want to show you in size comparison here. So this is the Keltec PMR30. This is my wife's full size. It's a 6-hour 1911 22. She also loves this firearm. I'm going to show you that it's safe. So we've got an empty magazine. Lock it back here. It's a safe firearm. It is empty. I want to just show you the size comparison here. So they're almost, now this has a 1911 grip angle, so it's a little bit different, but size wise they're fairly close, although the Kel-Tec, again, the width of the grip seems to be wider than your standard grip size on this 1911 and on several of my other handguns. So this definitely feels wider, and I can tell the difference. Now again, for my wife, all the controls were very easy to manipulate on the Keltec PMR. She's a big fan of SIG. This is one of her pistols. She's really good with this, but after shooting the Keltec PMR30, she actually said that she likes it better than this 6-hour 1911. Now my shooting impressions of this firearm, to be totally honest with you, I was not expecting the huge fireball, the concussion blast, and the sound that comes out of this pistol. And it completely shocked me when I pulled the trigger and it fired that first round. It actually even startled me. And again, I'm a big guy. I've been around firearms my whole life. I've enjoyed shooting my whole life. Concealed carry holder, all that stuff. But I was just shocked how loud this little firearm is with the 22 Magnum rounds. And in fact, we had about 4 other shooters with us on the range, and it was so loud, and the fireball coming out of it that came out the barrel every time a round was released. I actually had other shooters from other lanes come over and just to see what exactly we were shooting, because they'd hear that loud report, they would see the fireball, and then they'd notice a little bitty hole in the paper. And the little bitty hole obviously is from this 22 Magnum bullet. But it's incredibly loud. It's incredibly fun to shoot, and the gun is very accurate. I'm not the world's most accurate shooter, the best shooter in the world, and I was able to keep my groups fairly rapid fire within about 2 inches at 10 yards, which is about 30 feet away. And honestly, you know, I can hit stuff out to 25 yards, but most of the time I shoot 10 to 25 yards. And I wanted to put this thing through its paces. I wanted to squeeze off some rounds as fast as I could, just to test the reliability of it. And it performed flawlessly. It shot the CCI VMAX 22 Magnum flawlessly, as fast as I could pull the trigger. No hang-ups, no failures to feed, no failures to eject, no stovepipes, nothing. It was flawless on everything. It handled the 30 grain VMAX by Hornady 22 Magnum rounds flawlessly, and it even handled the Hornady Critical Defense 22 WMRs 45 grains flawlessly. Something else that's interesting, or at least it was interesting to me, is you notice that the VMAX has the sharp red tip on their ammo. If you look at the CCIs, if you notice the CCIs, they have a sharp black tip on their ammo. And the Critical Defense by Hornady are hollow points, and they have the little FTX bullet, but it's a flat nose, round. It's got the little rubber insert there in the end of the bullet to ensure expansion. And because it fired all three of these flawlessly, I actually mixed them up in the magazine. So I'd put a few of the Critical Defense, I put a few of the VMAX, I put a few of the the CCIs, fired the gun as quickly as I could. It handled everything that I put in the magazine flawlessly. Again, my groups at 10 yards, I could keep everything within about 2 inches. That's firing pretty rapidly. The recoil, for all the flame and the loud concussion, the loud sound that this wonderful pistol produces, the recoil is pretty negligible. Okay, it's easily handled. My wife was able to handle it. I was able to handle it pretty quickly. And it's pretty impressive. You can keep the thing on the target. You don't have to, you know, fire and then adjust back to the target for the recoil. It's just a really great gun. We really like this. We're going to be buying a burst fast fire reflex sight. You notice that that's the one Kel-Tec recommends. There's some screws here on top, and you basically, I believe you take those off. The burst fast fire optic, the reflex goes right on top of that. It blocks the rear sight, but you don't really need it anyway once you have that optic. And apparently is very, very quick for target acquisition, for firing. But if you don't have one of these Keltec PMR-30s, don't listen to people. Don't let people tell you that this is not a reliable firearm. This is an extremely reliable firearm. I fed 3 different types of ammo through it, which weren't the recommended ammo from the manufacturer to go into it. And it functioned flawlessly. Oh, one other point I want to make. The slide release button here, the slide stop button, is very stiff in this new firearm. I've only fired it, like I said, once. We fired a couple hundred rounds through it. It's very, very stiff. So you can, you know, pull it back, pull the slide back when you have a full magazine in, and then let it go to load a new bullet in the chamber, or you can force it with your thumb and pull it down. But again, it's pretty stiff. My wife did have a little bit of trouble with that, but what she did is every time she'd load a new magazine, she would just pull the slide back and then let it go. Worked fine for her. Now, I want to get into a little bit of the proper way to load this firearm, because, you know, there are specific instructions inside the Kel-Tec manual for the gun. I want to make sure that people understand how you load this and the reason why you load it the way you do. So if you notice, again, like I said, the 22 WMR is a rimfire cartridge. Okay, means the priming compound is in the actual rim. It's around inside of the bullet, inside of this rim. On a centerfire cartridge, I've got a 40 caliber shell casing here. There's actually a primer. This is a centerfire cartridge. And the firing pin strikes the center, it strikes the primer. which causes the ignition and causes the gun to fire, the bullet to go out the barrel. In a rim fire, since the priming compound is in the rim, that's where the firing pin strikes. It strikes the rim. Okay. When you load the Keltec PMR-30, there's a couple of little slots here where it's milled. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's a little bit wider and then it starts tapering back. When you load this magazine, you want to slide the bullet until it reaches the point where the plastic, the polymer magazine gets tight again. See, I can't push it any further back than that. I'm sliding it in that groove there. Okay, so once it reaches that, that's when you push it down and slide it the rest of the way back. That's our first round. The next bullet goes in, again, same thing. You slide it back to that notch, push it down, slide it back. Now, here's the key with the Keltec PMR. You want to tap it so that the bullets fully seat themselves on the back of the magazine. The reason you do that is because this is a rimfire cartridge. Again, the rimfire bullet can get what's called rimfire lock. So if I was to not have my bullet seated all the way back in the magazine and I put another one in on top of it, that shell, that cartridge, could get caught behind the rim of the one under it. That rim could get caught on the other rim under it. So you've got the bullet in the magazine. You want the bullets to line up like this, which is why you do the tap and seat them. If you don't, you can get it where they're caught like this. The one on top is caught with its rim on the one underneath. And if you do that, if you don't tap the magazine as you're loading it to seat those rounds back, you'll get that rim lock, and that's when you have issues with this handgun. That's when you're going to have reliability issues. Again, I loaded it according to the instructions in the manual, and I did not have any issues whatsoever with the magazines, with the handgun functioning reliably. Just got to make sure that they're all back there like that. Other than that, it's a really great firearm. It's accurate. It functions very reliably. And it's not even that hard to load. I will say that because the .22 Magnum round is small in diameter and it is a rimfire, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to load than a lot of other firearms. But I mean, you've got 30 round magazines. Okay, I mean, you can just shoot and shoot and shoot with this gun. It's really a firearm that I know my family's going to treasure. My wife's going to love and love to shoot. We're going to do a lot of shooting with it. It's functioned flawlessly. It's a great firearm, really a lot of fun to shoot. And you know, if you wanted to use it for personal defense, I know that I wouldn't want to be shot by a .22 Magnum cartridge, and the flame and the sound that comes out of this, the bad guy is not going to wait around to see if you shot them with a .22 Magnum or not. You've got 30 rounds that you can put on target as quick as you can squeeze the trigger for rapid successive shots. Definitely need to pick one of these up, add it to your collection. It's a great gun. I can't tell you, I can't speak highly enough about it. This is Justin, SurvivorReviews.com, signing off. Make sure you like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to be doing a lot more exciting videos in the future. And thanks for watching. Charlie Mike.